Would you ever get into?
No.
What a shame. That was going to be so good.
Daniel Priestley, the 2022 Entrepreneur of the Year.
Founder of Dent Global and Score app, best-selling author, and a massive regular guest on The Diary of a CEO.
Here with Matt Hall to discuss how to get ahead this year.
The most featured guest as it stands on Diary of a CEO, Stephen
I
Bartlett.
am, and that's insane. It's been 7 appearances.
What are the steps I need to take to even get considered for a show like that?
10 years ago, started going on podcasts that were tiny little podcasts. And
And here you are again. It's gone backwards.
I'll play tennis wherever there's tennis to play.
Love it.
A personal brand is 20 times more powerful than a business brand. You are paying a 95% tax if you use your business brand. If you refuse to be a personal brand, you're just basically missing out on 19 out of 20 units of attention.
As business owners, looking at how to think about AI, what would you say the approach needs to be?
The approach is called directionally correct. Simply means keep moving in the right direction. By the time the exact approach and the exact framework has emerged, it's too late.
80% of business owners are using AI, and of those, 80% report no time saved or increase in revenue. Where would be the starting point?
Here's one thing I would definitely do.
What's kind of your predictions that we need to be aware of in terms of where this is going? And
Do you want me to give you the light version or the real version?
I'd love the real one.
So the last
Daniel, welcome to the show.
I love these microphones. These
It
are
is
good.
proper boy band material. No, we said pub singer.
It's karaoke.
We're doing karaoke. Do you want to sing?
I don't.
What a shame. That was going to be so good. Can you
I
sing?
mean, I do want to sing, but not in front of everybody.
Okay, we'll do it
Just
afterwards.
afterwards, yeah.
Would you consider yourself someone who can sing?
I like to think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, before my voice broke, I was in Oliver Twist.
At school?
Yeah.
Who did you play?
Well, I don't know, but I had the solo. I did a solo in the singing, so I must have had a beautiful little voice of an angel prior to turning 13.
But anything could have happened since.
It certainly didn't stick, no.
Daniel, it's a pleasure to have you. And I was just thinking, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you now currently the most featured guest as it stands on Diary of a CEO, Stephen
I
Bartlett?
am, and that's insane. It's been 7 appearances, 33 million views. And I don't know why he keeps bringing me back. I mean, I'm not going to argue. It's lovely. But he keeps bringing me back and we have amazing conversations and it's an amazing experience. It's changed my life. It's been wonderful.
What is the reality of what that's done for your business?
Exponential growth. When you have 33 million views and you have the credibility of being on Diary of a CEO, it opens up just enormous amounts of opportunities. Essentially, everything from thousands of customers signing up to our software, speaking engagements all over the world, book sales, really warm, amazing introductions to amazing people. You name it. It's whatever you would expect. Then add another 30% VAT.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And if somebody's listening, they'll think, okay, the dream would be to just get on Diary of a CEO once.
Yeah.
If you was to kind of reverse engineer that process,
Yep.
for somebody who's maybe a bit earlier in business and they're
For
thinking,
sure.
what are the steps I need to take to even get considered for a show like that? What would you say?
Well, it's a lot like tennis. If you see someone on Wimbledon, it's not their first match, right? They've done lots and lots of matches. Or comedy clubs, right? So if you see someone who gets the Netflix special, you know that they have done a lot of comedy clubs in the lead up to that.
Right.
So think about this idea called the podcast pyramid. The podcast pyramid, there are something like 600,000 podcasts that are out there in the world. And there are just 100,000 plus that get 0 to 1,000 views per episode. So that's the base of the pyramid. Mm-hmm. And then there's 1,000 to 10,000 views per episode. And then there's 10,000 to 100,000 views per episode, and 100,000 to 250,000, 250,000 to 500,000, 500,000 plus, and then 1 million plus per episode. And we all know Diary of a CEO because it's 1 million plus per episode. It's the big dog. But the whole journey for me started right at the bottom. So I 10 years ago started going on podcasts that were tiny little podcasts.
And here you are again. It's gone backwards.
I'll play tennis wherever there's tennis to play.
Love it.
And it was just like, I remember getting on a podcast the first time we got like 10,000 views, which was a big deal. And that was, 7 years ago or something like that. And it was like, wow, I've gotten on a podcast that's had 10,000 views. And then that might have happened every year or every second year. But I was going on podcasts every month.
Really?
So climbing the podcast pyramid, refining the conversations, refining your ideas.
It's that whole like 10,000 hours thing, innit? You genuinely just become a better podcast guest. Especially probably doing some of the worst ones, you probably have to still hold the conversation together. So that's where you really hone your craft, right?
Yeah, you like a comedian, they find out which jokes are funny in front of small audiences. By the time they get the big audience, they've got the material.
Yeah.
So that's how I recommend people to do it, and I think it actually works just as well today, if not better. I think you can do it faster today, better today. I don't think every single person's going to end up on Diary of a CEO, but you'll certainly end up further and faster than you ever would have. The other thing too is that it's not like you only get a payoff when you get onto a big podcast. All those little podcasts, every single one of them is a great opportunity.
What's been the lessons you've learned from being that close to Stephen Bartlett and his team? When you see that kind of business operating in the way that it does firsthand, what are some of the lessons you've learned?
It is absolutely not an accident that they are so good at what they do. They are an amazing, well-oiled machine. When they interviewed me in advance of the episode, they had already read books, they had already watched videos, they had looked at viral moments, and they had all this information ready to go. And they had like completed a document. And I said, "Oh, you guys really do your homework." And they said, "We love content." And the way she said it was like so natural and enthusiastic. She said, "Our team loves content. We can't believe we get to do this." And she was basically saying, like, for them behind the scenes, they are geeking out on what content works, why does it work, all of those sorts of things. So he has hired a group of people who fundamentally love content, creating moments of content. When Stephen gets you as a guest, he has a 20 to 30 minute edited show reel of all of your best moments that you've ever done before. So he's able to watch 20 to 30 minutes of you performing on different podcasts, and he gets to see what's the sharpest, most viral bits of content. Wow. So his briefing process is really in depth. It's not just a document, it's actually media. So he can see the way that you share your ideas and which moments have worked in the past. And they're looking for people who are breaking through. They don't want to necessarily have someone who's already super well known and is everywhere. They're looking to break new speakers to bigger audiences, new guests to bigger audiences. The other big lessons that I got, this is a big lesson, and this one will really be relevant to your audience, and that is, in the lead up to my first episode, there was the founder of Spotify, and only got 300,000 or 400,000 views. There was the founder of Airbnb, 300,000 or 400,000 views. And I was bricking it going on to Diary of a CEO because I thought these two unicorn billionaire founders, these guys, I mean, if they only get 300,000 or 400,000 views, I'm going to completely bomb. I'm going to let down the team. And I was just really thinking, no one's going to watch my episode. And then my episode gets several million views. And I said to Stephen, how come my episode got millions of views and these billionaire unicorn founders got only a few 100,000 views? What was the difference? And he said, relatable beats impressive.
Yeah.
Right? So he said they're impressive, but very few people can relate to that level of success.
So it's kind of like, oh, I won't bother listening to them. Like you said, they're a unicorn.
Yeah.
It'll never happen for me.
I'm not going to start the next Spotify. I'm not going to start the next Airbnb.
Yeah, it's true. People do feel that way.
So they just go, oh, relatable. So he said, relatable beats impressive. He said, when they look at you, they go, I can relate to what he's saying. I can relate to his level of success. His level of success feels like one level up from me. Yeah. And they say, okay, great. I can relate to that. That's what I want.
And I think that's such a good message for people listening, because we hear it quite a lot. Like, in order to have a really good lifestyle type business, online business, we hear a lot about like the online education, like teaching what you know and what you're passionate about and things like that. And people often say you only need to be a step or two ahead. And people are like, I feel like I need to be a complete expert and all that. But I think that's a really good thing to highlight is people just want to be able to see aspiration. They don't need to see the finished article. They don't need to see that you've smashed everything, because actually it puts people off, doesn't it?
It does. In fact, trending at the moment is Henry Cavill has just he was asked the question about how difficult it is for dating at the moment, and he said, well, I just always ask out girls and they always just say yes, and that's how I've always done it.
Wow.
And it's gone viral.
What a great dating coach that would be.
It's gone,
cheers, pal.
Yeah, exactly. It's gone viral because it's like, I don't think Henry Cavill understands what it's like not to be Superman. This is the thing. When someone goes to a dating coach, they don't want to go to Henry Cavill.
Right.
Because they go, well, you don't understand what it's like. You just think, oh, you just walk up to someone and just ask them out. Yeah. So when someone goes to a dating coach, what they want is they want to go to someone who has struggled and who has been through tough times. And they go, you understand my struggle and how to get through it. And it's the same with everything. You know, it could be a business coach, it could be, someone who's a consultant. And it's like, I don't want to learn from someone who's a million times better than I am. I want to learn from someone who's a few steps ahead.
And I guess a lot of what you're speaking about is with getting on Diary of a CEO and building a brand and getting and seeing it really ties into the principles of one of your books, which is Key Person of Influence, right? What would you say are the key principles today from that book that still really stand up as being, because obviously the world's changing, and we'll touch on AI, no doubt, in a second, because I know that's a big subject you've got a lot of thoughts on. But what are some of the, like, if you want to call it, like, evergreen principles of building that brand and becoming a key person?
I wrote the book Key Person of Influence in 2010, so it's about 16 years ago now. And,
wow, is it?
Yeah. And at the time, that book was really far out there. Facebook was in its infancy, and a lot of the social media was considered to be stuff that teenagers and kids did. Business was just cottoning onto the idea of social media as anything to do with business. Today, it's a lot more accepted, and people now understand that the strategy is almost a bit of a must-have. Here's what we know now. We now know that a personal brand is 20 times more powerful than a business brand. So if you want to take a business to market, you are paying a 95% tax on attention if you use your business brand. If you refuse to be a personal brand, you're just basically missing out on 19 out of 20 units of attention.
Wow, mic drop. That, because people will go, do I have to put my face on camera, or do I have to do a personal brand? Like, a lot of people just want to build a business and not do that stuff, right?
You can do that. You just miss out on 19 out of 20 customers. Wow. That's all, right? Yeah. It's just 20 times harder. So if you're into hard work, then for sure, just do
Enjoy.
it. Enjoy. There's plenty of hard work out there. So like even the biggest CEOs on the planet now are understanding this key person of influence strategy. So Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan. JP Morgan is the most respected brand in finance and wealth, and Jamie Dimon spends most of his time getting out there and representing the brand public facing. And you see the same with Tim Cook of Apple. He's a massive introvert. He doesn't want to do it. His background is COO. He thought he would never have to do that in his life because he had Steve Jobs doing that job for him. And now he had to step into those shoes, but he had to get comfortable with being the face of Apple. What we're now seeing is that this is a go-to-market strategy that is unrivaled. It's 20 times more powerful than the business strategy or the straight-up marketing strategy. Social media was always built for faces. It was always built to amplify personal brands. So it's one of those things that it's just the fastest way to grow your business.
And do you think now, for businesses more than ever, it's best that it is the founder that's the face of it, as opposed to just attaching to a big influencer or somebody to be the face?
Well, you can actually do either.
Okay.
The risk that you have if you get someone else is that that they can actually leave with the business. And, when I've launched businesses in the past, and especially before I had any brand whatsoever, going back 20 years ago, I used to definitely get big known people to kind of be the face, and I would run these quarterly events, and I would build the business brand and my brand off the back of these people who were already known. I had dragons from Dragon's Den and sharks from Shark Tank and all of those kind of people coming onto our stages. And that very rapidly accelerated the brand of my business and my brand as well. But I was clever to transfer that onto myself and my business.
Right. So it was like that was the gateway in to people finding you. And because you started out with doing some big events, was that right?
I had a company that I was behind the scenes. I was the founder and the CEO behind the scenes, but we would do these tours of big international speakers throughout the UK. And then in 2008, my entire business was wrapped up in these other people's brands. And then because of the financial crisis, one of our major speakers decided not to come to the UK from the US, and the other one decided not to come to the UK from Asia. And we basically had to start from scratch.
So that's how you learned the lesson.
I learned the lesson the hard way.
The real hard way. Interesting. I'd love to know your thoughts on, with the backdrop of AI now, because obviously as we record this, we are at my event and I'm basically doing something similar. I'm bringing you in so everybody comes for you and then they might stay for me. I've listened to you. I have found, and I'm hearing other people that put on big events, that events seemingly are harder than ever right now to sell. These kind of like business events and so on. And I wondered what you were thinking about the trends, because on one hand, you hear everybody in like Gary Vee saying this is the year of the in-person, everybody's craving in-person connection more than ever. But as we know, what people say and what they do are not always the same. And the reality is, like, to get to an event, it's extra time, it's extra expense, there's accommodation, it's time away from the children, it's time out of the business and so on. And as things get easier and more convenient with AI, I feel like I don't know if events are actually going to be a safe bet. What's your thoughts?
I think the nature of an event is going to change. So when people come to events, when they used to come to events, they came for the information, they came for the, to learn something. And I think the emphasis is now on the experience of the event. So they want to get photos with the speakers, they want to get photos with each other, they want to create content around the event themselves. So a lot of people are content creators, so they want to interview other people who are there, they might want to meet up with certain people in their industry. So there's all these other things that are going on around the event, and that's a big deal. If we just look at the numbers are massively up on events. So
across the board.
Yeah, you take anything, big events, little events, the numbers are up. And you're getting more people at a higher price. I'm guessing that this is one of your biggest events you've ever run.
Yep.
It's been painful. It's been difficult.
Really painful.
As all events are.
Okay.
And that never changes, because as you get better at doing it, you always pick a number that's slightly a stretch, and it's always painful. So
that's like curse of being an entrepreneur, though, right?
How big was your first event that you ran?
Well, I did one years ago where we had less than 20 people.
Yeah,
but we officially kind of started again 3 years ago, and the first one was about 90 people, but the price point was about less than £10.
Yeah.
Whereas now we start at £200, and today we've got just short of 300 people.
There you go.
In 3 years.
So this is the thing. I bet you the feeling of getting 90 people at £10 and the feeling of getting 300 people at £200 is the same feeling, but the numbers are up, right? So if I detach you from the emotion of it, the numbers are up. More people than ever want to come to your event.
Although we've worked harder for this.
Yeah, and it's also been a much bigger number and a bigger price point.
Yeah.
Also, the funny thing is, it's a lot like having kids. You forget how hard it was.
Yeah.
You probably think you worked harder.
Rose-tinted glasses.
But I bet you worked pretty hard for your 90 people at £10.
You are right with that, yeah. I probably am doing that.
I'm just going to take a pause a minute, because I need to tell you about literally one of my favourite people in the business space ever. Jo Simpson. A lot of you who listen to the show may already be aware of Jo, but you probably don't know just how incredible she is. Jo is the founder of JK Business Services and also the profitable CEO. Now, I just knew Jo as this really lovely person who is great at networking, connecting you to people and opening doors for other business owners. But she's also so much more than that. For over 24 years, Jo has been running a successful accountancy and bookkeeping practice, supporting ambitious business owners across the UK. Her specialist accounting team works primarily with online, retail, and service providers. So they truly understand how modern day entrepreneurs operate, including things like digital launches through to creating recurring revenue in your business. But Jo does not just focus on compliance. She helps business owners think like CEOs so that they can actually increase profitability, smooth out that cash flow, and have a business that actually pays them well. If you've ever wondered how much you should actually be earning in your business to fund the lifestyle that you want, cover all your taxes, and create sustainable profit, you're in luck, my friend, because Jo has actually created a completely free tool to help you work that out right now, this second, and it's really exciting to do it. Her target income calculator will show you exactly what your revenue needs to be right now to actually get that take-home income that you want. But more than that, when you download it today, you'll also receive her Profit First Manager tool, also completely for free. What that's going to help you do is create a smarter cash flow system right now. So head to the link below and enter the code SUCCESSCHOOL, all one word in uppercase, to go and download your free copy right now and start taking control of your numbers like a true CEO. You will not regret it, and either way, you just need to go and connect with Jo. She's blooming amazing, and she will change your business and your life. So just go do it. Right, there we go. Back to the episode.
Let's talk AI then. AI is obviously something that is moving, evolving so quickly. It's very hard for humans to know the exact right, if you want to call it like strategy, framework, methodology to follow. So I think it's about having an attitude, an approach to AI that we all have to adopt. As business owners, looking at how to think about AI, what would you say the approach needs to be?
The approach is called directionally correct. Directionally correct just simply means keep moving in the right direction. Let's not try and have the perfect approach. Let's not try and have the perfect framework. We know that this is the biggest trend to ever hit business. By the time the exact approach and the exact framework has emerged, it's too late. You have to surf this wave as best you can, and you need to try and not get dumped by the wave. But the idea that there's going to be this lovely little path that's like laid out before you, then if by the time, that's a big red flag. By the time that little path is there, it's already too late.
So how do we surf?
Yeah, so directionally correct means just accepting the fact that you can't keep up with everything. You're gonna take a little, it's like drinking from a fire hose. A lot's gonna get past you.
Okay.
But so long as you are learning a little bit every week and advancing a little bit every week, that's enough. You are ahead of the curve if you just simply have a play with some of these tools. If you try and integrate something every single week, if you use it, and do a little bit of training, watch some YouTube videos, attend some workshops, that is enough to be ahead of this curve, right? So that for starters, you're not going to, the best of the best of the best feel massively like they're not keeping up with everything at the moment. So that's the nature of being part of something that's growing exponentially. And then directionally correct means, as much as you would love to get everything right with the implementation, you can implement maybe one real thing a quarter. You can do a little bit each week. You can chip away. And the reality is that is staying ahead of the curve.
I had a guest on the show that said there was a statistic, something like 80% of business owners are using AI. And of those, 80% can report no time saved or increase in revenue. So the vast majority of people that are using AI are not seeing any benefit to it. What do you think are the mistakes being made that are equating to that? And in terms of tools and where would be the starting point? What should we be focused on?
The biggest mistake is people think that AI is like glorified search engine type thing, that the things that they would put into a search engine are the same things that they would put into an AI. And you need to really get with the program that AI is essentially one of the smartest people you've ever met, who you can ask them absolutely anything, you can discuss it, and you can actually get phenomenal output. I mean, it's kind of like if you genuinely had someone who could speak 10 languages and had 10 PhDs and had won a Nobel Peace Prize, and you're like, what's the closest restaurant for Thai food?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, that's not how we use this.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like coming up here on the train, I had Claude analyze. So I've got an online assessment that people take, and we had 173 people take the new version of the assessment. I exported the data, I put it into Claude, and I said, tell me, what are the key insights that you notice from this data? It said, well, there's not one list here, there's 3 lists. There's 3 distinct segments within this, right? I said, great, give me the marketing plan for each of the 3 segments. What are the key messages? How do I best approach them? Boom. I said, what I'd like you to do is to create a spreadsheet for me that will tell me how to allocate my budgets to attract these different audiences, given that they're likely to pay different price points. So it created a really complex spreadsheet to do that. Now, this all happened in minutes. So basically, I started on the train ride with 173 forms filled in and had the data on an Excel spreadsheet. I finished the train ride with an extremely detailed marketing plan, financial forecast, key messages, and then I disseminated that to my team, and we've now put that all into play. So like you've got to use it as though you're, I almost wish people were paying 10 grand a month for it, because then you'd
Treat
use
it right.
it like a 10 grand a month tool.
So it's thinking about it like it's an actual expert at what it does.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things that you would say?
Here's one thing I would definitely do. Have a conversation with Claude about your biggest problem that you face in your life, and talk to it as though it is actually a person. And if you can't think of what you talk to it about, ask it about the nature of consciousness, and ask it about how it would define its own consciousness relative to your consciousness, and see if you can get into a deep philosophical conversation with it, back and forth, and about something as broad and as deep and as big as consciousness. And that should snap you out of any illusion that this thing is not like way more powerful than you're giving it credit for.
Yeah, because I do feel like it feels like not enough people are having these conversations about AI in the general public. And, you know, we hear about it. It's almost like we hear all these big things on the news and people just switch off to it. They just like numb to it. And I think most people have no idea the power of AI now, let alone in the next month and 6 months and so on. What's kind of your predictions that we need to be aware of in terms of where this is going and timeframes and those kind of things?
Do you want me to give you the light version or the real version?
I'd love the real one. Give me the depth, because this is, one thing I think I said to you earlier is I don't think many people are really projecting ahead like you do and thinking about it.
Yeah. So the last time something this big happened was the industrial age, and it was a fundamental economic shift, and it was a fundamental paradigm shift about the world and the economy. So if we went back to the 1700s, the fundamental asset in the economy was land. And land was an automation device. It was actually a natural intelligence. You put a seed, a tiny little prompt into the soil, and it comes up with an entire crop of wheat or apples or whatever. So you could do a little prompt and get something massive out of that. And the wealthiest people in the economy were landowners, and everyone else was poor. You were a serf or a pleb, but you could use their land and eat, right? And that lasted for thousands and thousands of years. And it was in the late 1700s, early 1800s, we had a complete paradigm shift that we could all come off the land, and because of technology, we could start working in factories and offices, and we didn't have to do physical labor. We were actually very valuable for multiple different things. There was a huge boom in the economy because of this, and we had to change economic system. So we went in the land-based economy, we had something called feudalism, we had colonialism, and mercantilism. And essentially those were economic systems that went with a land-based economy. And especially feudalism, it was essentially landowners had all the power, and then everyone else was kind of like a serf or a professional to a landowner. And then because of the because of the massive scale of economic change when we had the industrial age, we had to create two new economic systems, socialism and capitalism. Those two systems had to war against each other for the last couple of hundred years. Essentially, the two most valuable parts of the economy was people's time and labor, and the capital required to make that labor effective. And the war was between those who had time to sell towards people who owned capital, and those who had capital but needed labor in order to make their capital effective. So that was the big war that was going on. Now, what we're now going to need is a fundamental new economic system. So in economics, there are four fundamentals that create value, and it's called land, labor, capital, enterprise. So land is feudalism, labor and capital is socialism and capitalism, and then our next system, our next economic system will be called an entrepreneurial system or an enterprising system. And it will be a completely new economic system that we don't even have the words for, we don't have the understanding for, right? So in the same way that a feudal lord would not have understood what it was to be an industrialist with a production line in a factory, our brains are so used to capitalism, socialism as the only way that we just have no idea that there's an entirely new economic system. But the issue with AI is it makes labor almost redundant in many respects, and it also makes a lot of capital redundant. So a lot of the things that we've developed we don't need anymore. So both of those things take a massive hit, and then we'll need a completely new economic system.
And like, with that information,
What do you do
what
with
the hell do I do?
Stay directionally correct. Stay directionally correct, and also expect upheaval. Expect, in the late 1700s and early 1800s, we had something called the Engels Pause, and it was 50 years of disruption. And in those 50 years, at the end of those 50 years, we had Charles Dickens writing books about the best of times, the worst of times. And he had books about the kids who were pickpocketing from the very, very wealthy aristocrats. And what he was describing is an entire economy that had been through what you'd call a K-shaped disruption, where some people were wedged right up as industrialists and some people were driven down to the ground, and they were in slums. And that K-shaped wedge drove some up and some down. And it was highly disruptive. And it was only after 50 years of disruption, also it was Karl Marx who came out the back of that as well. So Karl Marx came up with Communist Manifesto and all of that at the end of that 50-year period. And then from there, we then started figuring out the new economic system. So there was huge disruption followed by a new economic system.
So in other words, the divide is likely to get bigger.
Of course.
So does that mean Gary Stevenson was right and you're wrong?
No, I agreed with him. I agreed with Gary Stevenson.
With the concept.
I agreed with him that wealth inequality is a massive issue that will widen and get bigger. His reason for wealth inequality is, he says, that the rich who are billionaires or millionaires, they buy up houses, that inflates the value of houses. And because the rich are buying up all the houses, there's no houses for the rest of us. And it's a silly argument because there's only 153 billionaires in the country. Most of them don't buy houses at all. They don't like real estate as a particular asset class. The reason houses are going up in value is because the government is inflating the value through printing money and injecting a lot of money and stimulus in the economy. And his answer is make government bigger. And my challenge to that is that the bigger you make government, the more debt they get themselves into. The more debt they get themselves into, the more they inflate the economy.
It just keeps going.
And it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I was saying, you're chasing a red herring with the billionaires. The billionaires will just move. If you make life hard for them, they'll just move country anyway.
Yeah.
And then that'll collapse the economy. The government is the problem. So Gary says billionaires are the problem. I say the government's the problem. And we're probably right we probably both understand the symptoms that are going on, right? He's a doctor diagnosing that billionaires are the cause, and I'm a doctor diagnosing that government policy is the cause, and we're arguing over what's causing this symptom. Right. Yeah.
Would you ever get into politics?
No.
So we won't ever see you as our Prime Minister?
No, I would definitely...
Because it's annoying, because I think
I definitely
the
advise.
Entrepreneurial way of thinking about politics, I believe, is the right approach.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurs are not incentivized to want to get into it a lot of the time.
It's not a matter of incentives. It's that it's such a fundamentally broken system that it's not a place that you can express high agency. If it were true that the Prime Minister had strong levers and could pull on those levers and get a lot done, then I probably would be excited to do that. But from everything I've heard, even from the horse's mouth of actual Prime Ministers, once you get into that environment, you're essentially a mouthpiece for the bureaucracy.
It's like your hands are tied.
You are basically, there's very, very little agency that you actually have. There is this bureaucracy that is now millions of people who all have their own agendas. You push on this button, they say you're not allowed to push that button because of this law. And you say, I want to do this. You can't do that because of this particular policy that was put in 14 years ago, and you can't breach that policy. So you can't actually get anything done. So the problem is that all of these really high agency, ambitious people look at that system and go, there's nothing you can really do with it. It's a blob. So it basically, until a forest fire burns it down and we can rebuild from scratch, it's not a workable place to be. It's not a place where I can express high agency.
All right, let's say the forest fire happens.
Yeah. Well, now I'm fine.
What's your manifesto? What would be your approach?
Well, at the center of every economy is highly productive people. That's what drives economies. So you have to start with that. You have to say, who are the really highly productive people? It's probably the entrepreneurs who are creating jobs, creating products, creating innovations. It's the ones who are, like, if you were to say, let's start with the idea that there's going to be this small town and we want that town to thrive, would you put a bunch of politicians in there who are bureaucratically managing that town? Or would you rather put a bunch of entrepreneurs in there who are going to start a new bakery, a new butcher, a new shop, right? You know that the entrepreneurs are actually the engine room. Off the back of the productive businesses and the productive individuals who trade products and services with each other, you end up with surplus value being created. And then you can have a few bureaucrats who manage how do we manage the surplus value, right? So imagine, like, go back to caveman times and you say, imagine you want to start with strong hunters who can bring in wildebeest, right? And you want to have like strong family units who can, work together as teams cohesively. And then because of the strength of those hunters and gatherers, there is so much surplus that we can now appoint a council, a tribal council, and say, hey, look, we are so good at hunting these wildebeest and so good at picking all these berries. Why don't we come up with some ideas as to how we could invest that to do even more and build a society? But if you take away those strong hunters and those strong gatherers, and you're just left with the bureaucrats, there's nothing to manage.
Which is what we're doing.
Yeah. So from ground zero, there is no choice. You must start with, everyone says, you've got to care for society, you've got to have equality and all those things. That's a luxury belief. It's not there is nothing about the fundamentals of physics that say that you actually have to care for people and that there has to be equality and all of that. Reality catches up with you real fast. The reality is it's bloody hard to create a surplus. And only if you create a surplus do you have anything that you can share around. So you have to you have to make a really horrible choice. The horrible choice is, do you optimize the economy for equality, which means everyone gets the same, or do you optimize the economy for excellence, which means that the high performers and the high producers are incentivized to be high performers and high producers. But the cost of excellence is that you don't get equality. You get inequality. You get some people who are millionaires and billionaires and superstars, and you get some people who just aren't. Right? That's the cost. And the cost of equality is you don't get superstars. So when we've run this experiment many times in the past, the answer typically is that you can have equality, but you have a very low base. So equality looks like poverty.
So everyone has a crap time.
Widespread poverty, right? So you can
Really? Is that what it...
Well, that's socialism, isn't it? Right? Socialism consistently produces widespread poverty. So ultimately you end up with a widespread poverty scenario, but equality. The vast majority of people all have widespread poverty.
Is there a world where that doesn't happen when you champion equality? Is there a way it doesn't have to be poverty?
Yeah, look, there is a way that it happens, which is massive natural resources that are really, really well managed. So, for example, Saudi Arabia, huge oil reserves. If you can defend it, if you can have a benevolent dictatorship that splits it, Norway did really well with the way they had their sovereign wealth fund. So if you are a resource-rich country, but then you've got Australia, which is insanely resource-rich, but terrible at managing it. So like they do stupid stuff like give away their gas and subsidize their minerals, and they are dumb as shit, right? I say this as an Australian, right? Our government, you couldn't pick dumber individuals to run a country that is sitting on trillions of dollars worth of natural resources, right? You couldn't screw it up more, or you could, but barely, right? So yes, the answer is there are scenarios where you can have widespread affluence and equality, but it comes from having a huge underlying natural resource base that you sell to the rest of the world and then you live off it.
So we all know that everybody is talking about AI right now, and we all know it's not going anywhere anytime soon. In fact, it's very much here to stay, not just in our lives, but importantly in our businesses. But if you're anything like me, you might just be feeling a little bit overwhelmed with it all, not really knowing what you need to be focusing on, what you need to do, or who to trust to give you the right advice. Well, do not worry, my friend, because I have a very good friend. If you're a regular listener to this show, you'll know she's already been on this podcast. She's been speaking in our membership, and she has been helping us develop our AI tools in Success School. The one, the only, the incredible Rebecca Whitney. Now, from my experience, when you see most courses around AI, they just move really fast, they use really complicated jargon, and it's taught in a way that feels like you already have to be an expert just to know what they're talking about. Rebecca Whitney is the complete opposite. And that is why I highly recommend her AI to Scale Accelerator. She doesn't use the complicated jargon, it's easy to follow, it's broken down step by step, and it will help you understand how to utilize AI in your business in a way that enables you to be able to truly scale. Now, if you're already a member of our Success School membership, you may just be familiar with a very fun, amazing chatbot called Matbot, my very own AI chatbot that we have. Now, we have been getting incredible feedback from people who have been talking to Matbot. For those who are not familiar, it's basically taken all my information, everything I teach, all my masterclasses, all my podcasts, and also my yet to be released full book that I've written. It has all this knowledge, and people have access to chat with the AI version of me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you've got that idea at midnight or 1 a.m. and I'm in bed asleep, which hopefully I will be, you can still get access to the kind of guidance that I might give you. It's been really successful, basically. People rave about Matbot, and Rebecca is the brains behind creating Matbot. In her AI Accelerator, she will teach you exactly how she creates those kinds of things and how you could do the same for your business too. So basically, if you want to now finally grab hold of AI and truly understand how to use it, Rebecca and her team will teach you the systems that you truly need to know. And what is really lovely is because you are a friend of ours and a listener of this show, she is giving you the first 30 days into this accelerator completely for free. You know what you need to do? Head to the show notes below this episode right now, click that link, sign up, and start mastering AI today.
I'm mindful of the time, so I'm kind of like, there's 10 million more questions I want to ask you. But I do want to actually take a little bit of time to talk about your book. This is your most recent book.
Yes.
How many books have you now authored?
Book 7.
Number 7.
Yeah.
7 times on Stephen Bartlett's show.
7 books.
777.
Yeah. Only 3 kids. I've got 4 more kids.
Oh, you've got work. Yeah. You've got work to do there. Lifestyle Business Playbook. This is the book here, if anybody's not got it. Who's this book for? And given what you said there about the backdrop of AI and where things are moving, you know, is this a book that everyone should be listening to?
So this is a book that is built around the technology and the times that we're in. There's a particular size of business that is natural based upon the tools and technologies of the day. So if we were to go back into the 1800s, it made a lot of sense to have 150 plus workers on looms and 150 people, digging or mining. Like lots and lots of labor was a really good thing. And there was a critical mass of about 150 people where the business properly became a business. So you wanted to have rows and rows of people assembling stuff and, doing repetitive processes. Now with the technology that we have today, the fundamental size of a business where it is hugely productive is about 3 to 12 people. So a 3 to 12 person team, small, nimble, neat, highly leveraged with technology, highly leveraged with media, a personal brand, 3 to 12 people, oh my goodness, you are now in a very good sweet spot. So what I'm trying to identify here is that there is a sweet spot that exists that is the 3 to 12 person business that can now punch way above its weight. So what used to be a 30 to 150 person organization is now a 3 to 12 person organization. And there's this new opportunity opening up where you can live and work from anywhere, that you can have customers everywhere, you can have digital delivery, you can have digital marketing, you can have a business that's lots of fun, right? Dedicated to a niche or a very specific interest that you've got, and you can make a lot of money from this. But if you go too big, 30, 40, 50, 60 people, you're now going to actually have your lunch eaten by one of these little 4 or 5 person companies that can kind of do what you do, but a lot faster and a lot cheaper. So I'm really encouraging.
And what's the reason there?
Just because of AI, right? So that 3 to 12.
But why is it a disservice to have more people as well?
Oh, because of the drag that comes with organization, right? So as you're organizing 30, 40, 50 people, in the time that it takes you to socialize an idea and start the process of getting people to buy in, and the 3 to 12 person teams already launched it. So it's just that speed to execution.
So that's a different mindset, isn't it? That people need to, if they haven't already, really start to take on board, because it was always that idea of having an empire and lots of offices and lots of staff was the dream for a lot of people.
Yeah. And if you take Hollywood and you take the film and television industry in the 80s and the 90s, a typical sitcom was $1 million per episode, and it was a team of 100 people working together. So all of those shows, Full House, Family Ties, that was 100 people on the cast and crew. And that was for a fairly basic TV show. Fast forward to today, it's small teams making YouTube channels, wildly profitable. I know a team of 10 that do $6 million a year profit. Wow. Pounds, so close to $10 million a year profit. And I know a couple of those, but it's 3 to 12 people, and they move fast, and they put stuff out, and they leverage tools, they leverage technology, and that is where they're really, really doing well. Now, if you came along with 100 people and tried to replicate what they're doing, you actually couldn't do it with 100 people. Right. It'd just be too slow. You couldn't produce a new piece of content every week that was as good. So you're better off having these small dynamic teams.
Daniel, I love it. I've just started reading the book the other week. It's great. I mean, I love all your books. Oversubscribed, one of my favourites.
And this is in 2 parts. First half of the book is principles, and the second half of the book is playbooks. Yeah. And the playbooks are, what do you do with 2 people, then 4, then 8, and then 12? And it actually walks you through and says, these are the meetings that you have. These are the key focuses. This is what you should be measuring. So the detail of the playbooks up the back is like, it's really specific. Do these things. And then at the beginning, it's like the mindset and the principles. So it's kind of a strange book in the sense that it's in 2 parts.
I love it. Daniel, I'm going to go through just some of the general life questions that I ask all guests before we close the show. First question is, what's some of the best life advice you've ever received, and why?
One is that you get what you pitch for, and you're always pitching. So you pitch your life into existence. Pitching is the ability to speak the future into existence. I think entrepreneurship in particular is the journey of 1,000 pitches. So it tends to be that life happens for the people who are out there pitching for it to happen. And the opposite of that is waiting, that you're just waiting for someone to come pitch you, or you're waiting for something to happen.
Because it's that idea that, there's luck involved. And I think there is luck involved, but it's like the more you pitch, the luckier you get, right?
That's it, yeah. And the journey of 1,000 pitches is that they snowball. So the first pitches are really uninspiring. And then as you get closer to the 1,000th pitch, they're getting bigger, they're getting more exciting, there's more leverage, yeah.
Okay, flip side, worst life advice, and why? Something that might have been well-meaning, but from life you went, that's terrible advice.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't follow it, but there was advice around, get a safe job and go to university and all that sort of stuff. I went to university for a year. I recognized this system's outdated. This is not the path for me, and I don't think this is going to be a big thing for the future. Dropped out after 1 year. The people who were still doing university that were my friends, they got put into the corporate machine, and they're kind of like on eggshells, hoping they don't get made redundant and all this sort of stuff. Fast forward 20 years, I'm glad that I dropped out. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had a job.
Yeah. I think actually for your listeners as well, the university thing would be you'd have to really, really, if you got kids, for example, you have to really think hard, do they need to go to university? Because for a long time there, look, let's be real, university was a very clear a clear marker that you were above average IQ and that you were from a reasonably decent family and that you were basically not going to be much trouble if I hired you. It was a good excuse. I'll tell you the truth is, prior to the 1990s, the truth is that university was a way of senior people in big organizations to hire their kids and their friends' kids over the people who already had jobs at the company. Right. So they needed an excuse to hire their mates' kids and put them in a more senior role. So university gave that excuse for nepotism. Whereas as soon as everyone went to university, then it lost its prestige and it lost its signal value. And therefore you're paying an enormous amount for something that doesn't have the same signal value that it once had. And therefore, it doesn't necessarily today signal that you're above average IQ. Anyone can go to university. It doesn't signal that you're from a well-behaved family that is a respectable family. Anyone can go to university. So all of the things that they originally set it up to signal,
It's
gone. So therefore, because it doesn't say anything, you're paying a lot for nothing. For nothing. Yeah.
Okay, the next question, if you're happy to answer, I always ask is, I think when people listen to shows like this and we get guests on like you, it's like they put you on a pedestal, you're the expert, you're the knowledgeable one, you've got all this, your life together. And I think it's really important to always remind people, we're all human, we're all going through this human experience, we all have challenges. So if you are happy to share, the question is, what is something you're struggling with right now? And how are you working on overcoming it?
So I'm struggling at the moment with health and wellness. I've had a series of health and wellness setbacks. I stepped on a skateboard, I broke my wrist, they put a metal plate in there, that severed the tendon. So I now have this ridiculous thing of having to wait months with no tendon in my thumb, and just opening a jar or a container and all this sort of stuff, like just recognizing how much of a gift it is to be fully able-bodied.
It gives you perspective, doesn't it?
A huge amount of perspective. I'm watching some footage of friends doing some workouts and just thinking, I took it for granted for my whole life that I could just put my hands down and do a push-up if I wanted to. And I take for granted my legs at the moment, right? But health and wellness, we just take it for granted. And yeah, like it's one of those things. Someone very close to me had a stroke last year, and I thought this guy had 20, 30 years of health ahead of him. He was only in his 60s. And, here he was, someone who I thought would be having, many, many, many wonderful conversations for the next 20 years together. And, now he can't remember prior to the stroke.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh
so,
my God.
yeah. So he has no memories prior to the stroke, and, and we're just dealing with that. But he was in perfect health. He was he was incredible health, actually, but just randomly has a stroke in his 60s. And we would have thought he would have been very healthy right into his 80s, maybe even his 90s. But so yeah, health and wellness, it's just one of these things that if you've got it, you take it for granted. And the minute you don't, you realize that it's everything.
Are you committed now to taking it more
seriously?
Yeah,
it's a huge part of my life, and unfortunately it feels like a reactive part of my life now, as opposed to what could have once been more of a proactive approach. Yeah.
Daniel, this has been great. If people don't already know where to connect with you, follow you, where's the places they need to go?
All the social media platforms. I am like whoring myself on all of them every day. So you can get more of me on Instagram and YouTube and OnlyFans. Not OnlyFans.
Yeah, not yet.
No, there's no OnlyFans. Amazon's got all my books.
Yep.
But probably LinkedIn, YouTube and Instagram are probably the big ones that I'm most responsive on.
Final question. What is your personal definition of success?
I feel like one of the greatest gifts is being able to pass on your ideas and your values to the next generation. So if I have kids who are happy, who are resourceful, who are adding value in society, who feel comfortable to go out and meet someone, I feel like probably that's the greatest success.
Daniel Priestley, thank you.
Cheers.